I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please call the meeting in order. Please rise and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America.
And to the republic
which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the board secretary has caused notice of this meeting, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the South Brunswick Public Library, the board office, filed with the township clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. Mr. Pulaski, roll call, please.
Mr. Patrick Del Piano.
Here.
Mr. Raymond Keener.
Here.
Mrs. Joyce Mehta. He is here. Dr. Stephen Parker.
Here.
Mr. Devin Patel. Mr. Arthur Robinson.
Present.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Scoletti.
Here.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Here. Thank you.
I have a quorum.
Can I get approval of tonight's agenda, please?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Moved by Ray Keno, second by Stephen Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Approval of minutes of March 19th, 2020. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Moved by Arthur Robinson, second by Ray Keno. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report of Superintendent, Mr. Fetter, please.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our third virtual meeting. My first announcement is an obvious announcement. If you have not heard, Governor Murphy today did make the announcement that schools will be closed for the remainder of the year. Along with this, it does not appear as if we're relaxing the 180 school days. As such, right now, we are planning on going through the entire 180-day calendar. I do have two topics for tonight that I would like to have some discussion on with the board at the end of my report.
Okay.
National Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. And Americans all over the nation are celebrating National Teacher Day a little differently. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. A little differently this year as we celebrate virtually. The celebration is part of National Staff Appreciation Week. And it is, if any time in history, it is now that we all realize in the midst of the insanity, this worry and the sadness all around us, there's all of this hope and good. It is in the schools, our staff, our teachers. Maybe not all schools in all towns and states, but without question here in South Brunswick, like no time before, educators are finally getting their due. Each time I write or say this, it amazes me more. But our educators flipped an entire system in 2 days, so much so and so brilliantly that every time we receive a memo from the Department of Education, they are about 2 weeks or more behind already. The South Brunswick staff knew we had to go. Recognizing and acknowledging their strength, their will, and their genius is only understating all facets of what you have proven, and they have all proven since March. Our staff demonstrates daily that no obstacle is too big, no situation insurmountable. When it comes to reaching families and students, They're all simply amazing. I would imagine, I'm speaking for the board and saying those words. It's truly amazing. And today we sent out a video to our staff where we were kind of giving some inspirational quotes. And each day, the Board of Education administration will be sending off different videos, and we'll be posting those videos for our community to see. And again, there's not enough we could do. There really just isn't enough we would be able to do to demonstrate just how wonderful they've been during this whole situation. I would imagine the main things that people are interested in right now are what happens now that we're going to go remote for the rest of the year. Now that we know students won't be coming back, we know that there's questions about how do I even get my books, my instruments? How do I clean my desk? My gym lockers? That's something we really don't want to think about, as someone just pointed out before. We really don't want to think about what's going on in those gym lockers right now. But as of right now, they are all safe, but closed. But there's some big deals along with this. Each of our schools every year has end of the year celebrations and experiences. So each of your schools will be talking to you more specifically about what their plans are to capture those experiences in the best way we can. So now that we know it's closed, you should start hearing more information about what the end of the year will look like. And of course, the big one in our district is high school graduation. I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder. The high school has been planning, and we know it's going to be great, and you just have to hold a little bit longer for that. But do know we've been planning, expecting the news of graduation, probably not being allowed in person. So this is not a surprise as of today, but something that the high school team has been planning for. So again, for high school senior families, please wait, and the high school will be getting back to you. Another big topic for, we normally have all the information. Normally during student class placement, we have a whole bunch of metrics from our students that we're able to use and apply to make sure we give kids the most opportunity. But it's a little different this year. But each level is also planning on sharing with you how they're approaching various parts of student placement, whether it be teacher placement in elementary schools or course placement in middle and high school. So all that information is coming shortly. And we know we probably can't give information fast enough to our community, but we do want to make sure it's solid information and that we're able to provide for our students in the best way we can. So again, you're going to hear more about things such as, when do I get to go into school and get my child's stuff? When will orientation for kindergartners be? When will parent orientations happen? How will it all work? We are working on all of those questions. And I think the most important thing we have is we know the questions, right? Our schools know what they normally provide to their parents and their students, and all they're doing now is prepping for it in a virtual manner. I think we've proven that we can flip school, so we can certainly flip all of these experiences and expectations. So the next step you'll hear about the remaining school year will be specifics from parents. You will be getting a letter from me this week that outlines more of all this information. But in the meantime, schools are working on all the specifics, and you'll hear from them. That would probably bring up your next question, which would be, well, what about the summer? Well, today the governor also announced that they're going to be putting a steering committee together to look at things that happened over the summer. We're going to have to continue to make our decisions in the best interest of our students in South Brunswick. So a few of those are some hard to hear. Our Summer Institute, which is normally an in-school operation, is going to have to go remote this year. So right now we are fully planning on providing almost every normal course we offer in the Summer Institute, but it will be remotely. You will again receive very specific information about this with opportunities to make different decisions than you might have made. We know that situations for families have changed, and what you might have thought was viable and possible 2 months ago might not be viable and possible. We're not going to hold anyone's money who wants to make a change, but we do hope you'll give trust in us and know that we will provide an outstanding Summer Institute, even remote. Another program that we're all used to, and this is a very hard one to say, we does not look like, in fact, we will not be able to hold a camp this year through community education. It simply is not doable. There's not enough information to suggest we could do it safely for our students and our staff. So at this time, we have canceled summer camp and virtually almost all summer activities through community education. You will be receiving information about this if you've already signed up or if you were planning to sign up. We are hoping to find alternates for families, but at this time, we know the restrictions that are out there now. Just to share a few of the restrictions. Right now, if we were to open up a daycare or a camp of some sort, the restrictions are 1 adult to 5 students, temperature checks on a regular basis, and if anyone is found to have COVID-19, to shut the program down for 14 days. These are not situations we can adjust to, and the cost of camp, if we had to use those numbers, would be double or triple the amount of money that people are paying. At the end of the day, it's really just not feasible for us to do that. The other area, which we are going to run, is our extended school year program, or our ESY program. We're working on how to do that remotely, but hope there's a chance aspect of it could be in person. But this is not our decision. This completely is a decision of the governor right now. Right now, we are in strict guidance by the governor's office. And at this moment, there's no information that suggests we will be able to operate that in person. But if we are, we certainly will. Any other summer programs we run, you'll be hearing about. And again, it'll be by level or by school. This brings us to the third question. What about September? Again, I do not own a crystal ball. I own a Magic 8 ball, and that one is not helping me at all yet. I've gotten nothing out of it. So we're going to go with I don't know, but here's what I do. I can't just keep telling you I don't know anything. That doesn't look very good. So there are 3 possibilities with iterations of each possibility that we are planning for. The first possibility is that we will open in September without any restrictions. I can tell you if that happens, it doesn't mean we go back to normal on day 1. We can't forget that this just happened if we open as normal. So we will be working on what that normal would look like. Our second bullet is we could open in September with restrictions. Now we can all probably guess what restrictions might be in place. Some of them are extremely hard to manage, and some of them are possibly impossible to manage. That includes the simplicity of hand washing every X amount of time, or Purelling, or whatever it is that they're going to tell us to do. There could be temperature checks. That's an interesting one for me, to think about how we will check the temperature of every child before they get on a bus, and then probably again, and I think of the high school, 3,000 students. It sounds like it's an easy thing to do, but it is not an easy thing to do. If they tell us we have to do it, we will figure that out. We are planning on everything. The other one that could be possible is they could say, well, you have to wear masks. Well, that would be interesting. Families, you're home with your kindergartners and preschoolers now. Try putting a mask on them for 6 hours. See how that goes at home. Now multiply that by 20 in a class of kindergartners and preschoolers and first graders wearing masks. And the teacher teaching all day with a mask. Again, if this is what they put upon us, we will figure it out. And the fourth one, which is the one that I can't actually visualize, is social distancing in the school. Our classrooms can handle the number of kids we currently have. So if we have to cut that down into thirds, well, again, here's the thing. We're going to figure that out if that's what's told to us. They're currently planning on it, and we will figure it out. But the governor did say today, and I did appreciate that, he did say the restrictions currently in place would make it impossible to open schools. I wholeheartedly agree that with the restrictions in place, we could not open schools successfully. So much so, with such challenge, it might be easier just to stay remote at that point than it would be to open. Yet we fully know we need to get the economy back. We need to get our families back to work. We need everyone to be able to go back to as close to a normal as we can get, and schools being open is required for that. So it'll be a balance in September. The third option is it could be remote. It could be, no, they're too worried about a second wave. There's not enough information about the virus. We don't know. There could be a number of reasons while the governor makes the decision to put us in remote. So think of those three options. September, no restrictions. September with restrictions. Remote. We are taking those three and a wild ride and figuring out every single thing that would need to be done to manage all three of those extremely successfully. If we stay remote, what does it mean to be remote for the next school year? Think of the challenges of that. Think of kindergartners meeting their teacher through a Zoom lens. A lot of things to consider. So we're playing all those out. We'll be opening up. We want to hear from our stakeholders. We know we need to hear from our students, our parents, our teachers, our administrators. We can't do this in a vacuum. So all of that is going to be happening. May and June are going to be a bustle as we really dig into this. It's important to do that. So again, I know there are a lot of open questions. I have a lot of open questions. I imagine the board members have a lot of open questions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of answers to some of these questions. And that expands well out of the school setting, I know. But we're doing our best, and we're going to continue to do our best. And we're very fortunate to be in this community with the staff that we have here. I don't know if you had a chance to see, but we had a virtual health and wellness fair. And that was so successful that the Commissioner of Education has asked for our people that designed it to go onto a podcast with the Department of Education and present our virtual health and wellness fair to others. So that's a real nice way to be recognized by the Department of Ed. And I will say that some of the work that our staff has put together could all be state level work. I mean, we should have packaged it and sold it to help with our budget issues. I'll talk about it in a little while. That would have been our better move. So I apologize for not thinking through all the way. But if we go back in September, maybe we'll package some of this stuff and see what we can do. But it is really that impressive. And we thank our staff so much for all that. So I have some announcements before we get to some discussion. We have the South Brunswick Tech Storm Student Film Festival. It was originally scheduled for the 25th. It's going to be moved to May 20th at 7. It will be live on the BTN YouTube channel. And we do want one more big congratulations to all of our support educators and persons of the year. I know we're all impressed with them every year. Unfortunately, we could not honor them the way we do. We'll try to get them back to a Board of Ed meeting, a live Board of Ed meeting later at a later date, unless, of course, you guys like this and we don't want to do live anymore. I mean, my couch needs a break, so maybe we'll get in eventually. But we do hope to bring them into a meeting. A few other cool announcements. We want to acknowledge Jillian Ryan and Akil Edekar on receiving the 2020 GMC Sportsmanship Awards. That's amazing news. It's really great. And again, can't bring them here, but and their ceremony was also virtually, but they were recognized, and that's what matters most. All right, 2 discussions. I think one's easier than the other, so I'm going to start with the second one first. As I said, we now know schools are going to be closed. Our current calendar has us ending school on a Thursday. Okay? We have 3 days. One, we've already gone back to school. That was the day before spring break. And we currently have 2 scheduled meetings, 2 scheduled days closed right around Memorial Day, the Friday before and the Tuesday after. If we would like, we could, at the May 18th meeting, change the calendar. We could announce it now and change the calendar to remove those 2 days on the 22nd and 26th, end school on that Monday. So that's what I'm kind of proposing to all of you to see what you think about that. It would basically mean our last day of school would be the 22nd of June instead of the 25th. If we want to get really radical, we come to school on a Saturday, we can get out of here on June 19th. But Just saying. This would put graduation on June 22nd instead of June 25th. As it will be non-traditional, I don't, it's okay to move the date. Thoughts? I'll put it out to the board.
Any questions?
The question is, do we leave the calendar as is and have a little bit of a long weekend around Memorial Day? We all might need a break at that point. Or remove those 2 days and take them off the back of the calendar. Along with the other one that we already took, we would move the last day of school from June 25th to June 22nd.
Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Patel.
Thank you. So my thought in this one that I do agree with Mr. Feder on this thought, because a couple of days extra will help school district in planning for September's, because we don't know what's going on in September, like Mr. Feder said. So I do support his suggestion on this. Definitely, it's a good idea because everything is at home and remote learning, and I would think it would be appreciated also leaving 2 days early too. Thank you.
Joyce, you had a question? You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute, Joyce.
No, I didn't have a question. I was just going to say that I wholly support ending earlier, because it kind of like looks as though, we're not going to be able to make travel plans as we normally do at around the Memorial weekend anyway. And, so I would wholly support ending school earlier.
That's most definite. Anyone else? Scott, I believe the board is in favor of your suggestion.
All right, we're gonna, well, I thought that would be the easier one. I'll do a few more checks during the week and, Stephen.
Stephen, yes.
To change the calendar, do we need to have a formal vote tonight?
No, we can do it on May 18th.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the next conversation is one the board has been having, and it kind of got sidetracked, and that is a conversation about board meeting nights. So currently we do our board meetings on the first and third Mondays of the month. David, the proposal is to move, not a proposal, it's a conversation. It really isn't a proposal yet. But David, the conversation would be about having board meetings on the second and fourth Thursday?
Correct. And we provided the board an update with calendar. We would experience less conflicts on the board side in terms of scheduling our meetings. And we also looked at the township committee meetings, and we didn't have any conflicts with any township meetings. So it's an opportunity for us to shift the dates later into the week. So we're not coming back from President's Day weekend and having a meeting. We're not coming back from Easter break and having a meeting. It's just one of those calendar moves that provides us an opportunity to give the board members an agenda and a consent agenda and everything earlier in the week, like on a Monday, us be around and in our offices for your questions and your responses throughout the week prior to the board meeting. So it's just it would be a much more easier and a much more fluid date for us in terms of setting up our meetings and providing all of you the information that you need to be able to be a part of it.
But David, I have one question before I open it up to the board. If we move it, how does that affect getting the agenda online for the public?
Actually, it would be easier from us for the public standpoint and our standpoint. What we would look to do is provide board members and everybody. We could provide you the agenda on that Friday. You could have it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Ask us with questions. We're in the office Tuesday, Wednesday. The Wednesday morning, the agenda goes up. It's there Wednesday morning, Thursday evening meeting. It's much more fluid and much more available. Even this evening, we had some changes to agendas that were, 5 o'clock at night. That can't really be in our process or in our wheelhouse. And us being all in the office while we're generating and participating in the agenda process and building that agenda, it's just more fluid. It actually would improve what we could provide the public.
Ray, you have a question? Go ahead. Ray, you have to unmute.
I got him.
David, the other thing it does, it gives us more transparency as far as getting our information. We're able to put it up quicker so that the public will see it rather than putting it up late on a Monday afternoon for a meeting that night, correct?
Correct, absolutely. And again, it's about that. It's about providing and having that time for us to put things out there for public view.
Yeah.
Also, David and Scott, it allows us to do committee meetings during a week prior to the board meeting, so we're not rushed that evening, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, you could do committee meetings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, have your board meeting Thursday night. You could still hold your committee meetings prior to a board meeting, but it does provide us more opportunity to have those committee meetings prior to a board meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? It's not on, Arthur, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The time that's gone by, I've actually thought about this quite thoroughly. I was thinking, like, to be honest with you, like, for ever since I moved to this town, like, for 30 years, numerous superintendents and people of the township have always had the Board of Ed meeting on a Monday. And I do understand trying to get information out, and I understand the reasoning and the logic behind it. And I understand transparency and what have you. But the kind of like the way I'm looking at it is it should be something Herculean to actually move a board meeting that's been well established in this town for over 30-something years since I've been here. And so kind of like the way I look at it is basically like, I understand, getting more information to people and doing all these things and what have you. But I feel that moving it, transparency, or you can get more information out. So I'm looking at the kernel of it all, and I'm saying to myself, is that really a legitimate reason to move a board that's been well established for many decades?
Well, I would think that if we're trying to gain the confidence of the public, things change, just like weren't used to doing remote learning 2 months ago. We're doing that now. And I think if we're able to provide more information and change it around a little bit, we're more transparent to the public. I think it's a benefit. It outweighs staying with tradition on a Monday.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about years of actually serving on the board. I'm also talking about the 30 years I've been in the town. Some people may have been here, but I'll go ahead and yield the floor to other board members. Mr.
Stephen, go ahead.
Just a question. Prior to all the pandemic and changing to virtual meetings, when we had the meetings in the building, at what point was that put up on the website for people to see?
By about Wednesday, usually. I think Wednesday or Thursday.
So most people weren't really looking at the meeting on Monday anyway, because they couldn't. It's not available it's only those who actually came to the meeting were able to see anything on a Monday. The rest of them watched it at their convenience sometime after Wednesday when it was posted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, to my opinion, changing to Thursday won't be that different. It only affects those coming to a board meeting, which, as most of you know, through many board meetings, there aren't many people there.
That's true.
Joyce?
Yes, I would also support Dr. Parker and Mr. Robinson and say the same, that we've not really had a problem. We could still have the committee meetings on other days. That wouldn't cause a conflict at all. And in case of transparency, we could just make other arrangements to get the information out sooner rather than later. And in terms of the long weekends, we've always traditionally, in those circumstances, had the meetings on the Tuesday following the long weekend. It's worked well so far. The community, understand that Mondays are our board meetings. I think that it works well so far, and I would support my colleagues in this matter.
So go ahead, Lisa.
Okay.
I think one of the things that David hit on, and it was one of the things that was discussed several years back prior to Scott coming on board, and I believe it was when Dr. McCartney was around, was the frustration of the community that they did not have access to the consent agenda prior to the meeting. So they didn't have a chance to really review what was on the consent agenda and put together a list of questions that they may have to request to present to the board. So I think by moving it, two things are accomplished. One, it gives the administration an opportunity to provide a thorough consent agenda, as well as gives us, the board, an opportunity to really review it and understand what is going to be discussed. I think transparency is the issue, and it gives the community that ability to have it, as well as it gives the administration an opportunity to put a thorough agenda together without being rushed.
Stephen,
Just to clarify my position, I'm in favor of moving it. I think it's a good idea. And I mean, as Joyce pointed out, I mean, you think it's worked well those right after the long weekends, but as Dave just pointed out, it's always difficult.
Correct.
To get things out on a Monday or on a Tuesday after we've been out of the office for multiple days. So
Correct.
I really think Thursday is, we've noticed that there's no conflicts with other township meetings. It certainly seems, in my opinion, to be a better option.
Well, I agree. I agree with what Ray is saying, and Lisa, the transparency issue is an important issue. The fact that we can get the agenda, a more complete agenda too, because there's sometimes that we're rushing around and things don't get on the agenda because it happens late Friday or whatever. And this way, the agenda's out, everybody has it, they're going to have over a day and change to digest. And perhaps we'll get more people at a board meeting since there are no, a day in advance, hey, that's on the agenda, maybe I'll go. Instead of knowing the day of or when you come home from work, you're looking at the agenda. Part of the things too, Arthur, is that, when we first moved in, a lot of us have been here a while. When we first moved in, everything was live on television. So once we went to a video link, like Stephen said, it really doesn't matter at this point because we put it up and people watch it on Thursday, Friday, they catch it on the weekend or whatever. So, but to have that agenda and to know, hey, I want to talk on it makes a big difference, I think. Joe, you had a question? Okay.
Yes, I think it's a good idea to move it to Thursday. It'll give the committee meetings during the week they can meet as well, and plus it'll the agenda, like you said, everybody's been saying, it'll get out there so everybody could see it and there's questions, because on a Friday afternoon people are looking at it, but are they really looking at it? So at least this way they're into it by Tuesday, Wednesday when they receive it. They're more into a work week and everything else, more able to look at it a lot better. So I like the idea of moving it to Thursday.
I actually have a question.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Not that it needs to be addressed here, but I'm just going to put it out there. Since we're able to do this type of forum with Zoom, is it something that we can look at maybe during when we're actually back together again, having some type of live video feed so that those that are unable to make the meeting can potentially ask a question via Zoom and or YouTube or whatever, however it would be done, as well as recording it, as Stephen said, so that it's available for others. If that's something that's feasible, maybe we could look into it.
We can look into that.
Yep, noted.
Thank you.
So is this once again something for a future budget meeting, or are you looking for a motion tonight?
It doesn't need a board motion, I don't think, David, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, if the board's making the decision to move its meeting date, we would put a motion. We could do it again at the next agenda meeting. We'll put it on the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. Does our policy state a day and time of meetings, or just that we have them?
Just that we have.
Just that we have.
Good question.
Yes. When exactly you think, if we do adopt this, when do you think September we would start this up? Doing the Thursday meetings?
Good question.
I mean, we could start September and be fine. I'm thinking our summer meetings are, few and far between. So a September start would probably be best.
Okay.
Or even a test during the summer.
Right.
And
we could put out, if it's going to be on a motion for next, put out a full calendar of what it would look like, so everyone knows exactly what they'd be voting on.
Actually, part of this requires us, the board every year votes on and with a motion all of the board meeting dates. So during the next board meeting, we'll have a motion with all of the dates, and that start date would actually be for the month of July, because our board dates are approved by the board to June 30. July 1, we start a new year, and those July 1 dates would have to fall into what we approve at the next meeting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Steve, Ray, excuse me.
Yeah, and David, if I'm not mistaken, you actually sent out a sample
I did.
About a month ago as to what a Thursday schedule versus a Monday or Wednesday schedule would look like.
Absolutely.
Joe, you had another question?
No.
Okay. Everybody good on this? Okay, thanks, Scott.
My last part, we get questions sometimes about the use of Zoom, because it had some bad press when it first came about. But we've been doing, no issues at all, no trolls getting through. It's been clean, and I just want to let you know we're going to continue going with Zoom for right now. And again, we've had no issues whatsoever. Sharon Johnson, our tech director, has been amazing at updating us in the loop of what we need to do. A lot of those issues were very early on, and even some reports are still reports from a few weeks ago and beyond that. But we've been doing well, and right now, knowing our teachers are very comfortable with it, we feel education. However, when we do hold our community event, we're going to move to a WebEx on that, and our board members will all have that. But that's kind of our plan right now, would be to stay with Zoom for our kids. So for parents that have asked that question, I just want to let you know we have it all under control. There's no issues. We're not facing any of those problems that we've heard about when they first came on. And Zoom has been really good about being attentive to it and making sure we're good. So we're comfortable with that. And Barry, that does complete my report. I know that we're going to do some other things, but that is my report.
So, David, before we go into the public hearing, I noticed there's no public members on this Zoom session. Is Sharon going to open the portal at this point or something?
Well, no. So so this is a little bit different of a format. This is called a webinar. So in a webinar format, the entire public sees us, but we don't see them.
Oh, okay.
So as of right now, we have 27 people who are watching as part of Zoom, and we have 65 people who are watching part of the live stream in the actual live stream feed. So everybody's still watching us. We just don't see them all over our screen, and it makes it more easy for Sharon and I to manage all of the people who might want to talk during public comment or not.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're moving along then to the public hearing on the 2020 2021 school budget. Scott and David, you want to take over? I don't know who goes first, but.
Look at this. New technology makes one smile. Here we go.
We'd like to start this off. Dr. Stephen Parker is our budget chair, and a few words from him before we get going.
Yes, as budget chair, we have been meeting virtually for the last few months trying to go through this budget. What we would normally do at the public meeting, we would break it apart, and each of the committee members, which this year is myself, Arthur Robinson, and Ray Keener, would take part in this presentation. But there's several things this year that make that difficult. One, the format doesn't allow for it as well. But second of all, normally all of our numbers are set and fixed. The state has given us a number for next year that we know they're going to keep. We don't have that this year. There's a lot more unknowns in the budget. We have a number from the state, but due to the pandemic, we don't feel that the state budget will allow them to support that necessarily. But because of all those uncertainties in the budget, I've asked Mr. Pulaski and Mr. Feder to handle this entire presentation tonight. So I will turn it over back to them.
All right, thank you, Dr. Parker. And Dr. Parker just talked about probably the most important thing about this budget. And I'm just going to throw these up there. We are, to say unprecedented times is just passé at this point. We are facing a mountain, and we have a skateboard to get up it. And it is just monumental undertaking right now as to what we're planning for related to the finances of the district. For those that have been watching, we've already talked to you about S2 and the plan for reductions in state aid that will total, I'll go through that again tonight, but it will total about $9 million over the next 4 or 5 years. That might pale in comparison to what we're facing after the COVID-19 financial mess is over. So I'm going to talk to you about something that is very odd for us as we go through our budget. Normally, the way we budget, you heard from Dr. Parker, they give us a number. We build a budget based upon the amount of money we have. Well, if you can think of for a second having a steady budget every year and then find out that one year you won't know how to plan, you won't have a clue how much money you're going to get, and you don't even know how much things are going to cost, and yet you still had to build your budget. That is our world right now, and I want to go through these so you understand them. In February, the governor had a state aid address, a budget address to the state, and at that time, that we learned that our budget was being reduced by $1.936 million. He is now going to be in the position, due to all of the financial trauma of the state and the country and the world, to probably have to revise those numbers. We do not know if he will revise those numbers. Maybe he'll give us more money, but we're not planning on that. The most important thing I can tell you today is we don't know. We have financial uncertainty, and we still have to adopt the budget tonight. The second part that we don't know about is there's a new healthcare bill on the horizon. We're hopeful that this healthcare bill will be wonderful for our staff and wonderful for the district, but we just don't know. So that's another piece of information that will happen after we adopt this budget. Some things we do know, but we don't know the extent, are the revenue losses from Summer Institute, community education, and we rent our facilities. We expect them all to be down. We just don't know how much down. But not having summer camp doesn't help. And that's a financial hit to the district. We expect less in all three of these. Next, we have what we have no idea what it will be or the cost, COVID-19 supplies, potential losses there. Maybe not a loss, but expenditures that we had not originally budgeted. And we don't know how to budget for it exactly. Do we have to buy masks? How many bottles of Purell would you need to Purell an entire 10,000 people a day, 3 or 4 times a day? We don't know the answers. We don't even know the questions because they haven't made that clear yet. And we might not know till long after this budget season is over. Our next piece are thinking about reentry. What will the staffing costs be? Will there be a need to increase staffing to manage all that? We just don't know. Next, we have something with our food service. As of right now, one second. As of right now, we're not making money on food. Not that we want to necessarily make money, but we certainly don't want to lose money as we're doing all this work to feed as many families as we can. We're losing money on a daily basis. What I will announce right now, for all listening, if your family needs food, if you'd like to be part of our food service program and receive free food, please contact the school. We'll provide it for you, free of charge. We just need to know that you're interested. David?
For that contact, if you could please contact Miriam Arnold at central office. She would be the one that arranges all of the food service throughout the district at this time. Miriam Arnold at the district main office, or Michelle Armstrong at Chartwells.
We'd love to help our families, so please reach out. We also expect there'll be a loss of revenue from pay to participate. Now, I don't think any of us like pay to participate, but it is part of our budget. And at this point, not knowing what's going to happen with various sports, we don't know how that will work. Finally, good news, we hope, but we have no idea what it will be. And those are stimulus funds. The federal government did put out a stimulus package. The governor announced today that there was about $310 million that will be distributed to the schools. $310 million is a lot of money, but it's not that much money when you consider 600 school districts and over 1 million students. So we hope to see money that works for this. We really do. Just don't know what to expect. So it's another unknown. These unknown financials tie directly into timelines, which we have no control over. When will the stimulus funds come? Will we qualify? The state aid address, what we know is August 25th. Will we get information prior to that? Will we have everything solidified by August 25th? We open school in September. So it's very tricky. The healthcare bill, we don't know when it's going to be adopted, if it's going to be adopted. The reentry requirements. And our summer programs and availability, like I shared before, they're just unknowns at this point. Before I get into the crux of the budget, these are all new components that we absolutely have to consider. Very hard decisions have to be made. The district has to take care of its community. So we'll be working through that over the next few months as well. But tonight we're adopting a budget with the state aid figures provided, with what we already know, knowing there's so much more that we don't. But this is the task we've been given, and we are required by state law to pass a budget before, I believe it's the 11th of May.
Correct.
Tonight is our night. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what a deficit model budgeting is. And, you know, this is what we're listening to. This is the S2 world we're living in. A deficit model means that you are guaranteed to start every year with less than you had equivalent the year before. Now, you might have more money, but not enough money to cover your new costs. It's a deficit model. That's every year, even if we're in a normal year, but this year, we already know the state aid figures took away at least 1.936 million. And that's already after working through a deficit model where we're always figuring out how we can cut. You cannot sustain always figuring out how you can cut. Eventually it catches up. But when you take more money away in that model, it catches up a lot quicker. This healthcare waiver, we used to have $1 million access to money. That was removed this year also. This year, we are fortunate. We have about $640,000 in banked cap. It's money we didn't spend in prior years. We can use that going into the 2021 school year, but after that, that money is gone and we'll have no access to it again, which means in the following year, you're back to figuring out already, how am I going to find the $640,000 I just spent? One of the real tough ones for us was a law passed about 10 years ago called the 2% cap, meaning we cannot raise money above 2% of the tax levy. For us, it comes out to 2 million and change a year. The problem is, as we'll show you, we need more than that each year just to cover the basic costs of what we're doing today. And we already know, back to the deficit model, we're going to have less. Minus 2 million, minus whatever else is going to be taken from the things I shared before. This system was put in place, if you remember the recession, that's when this came about. Well, I don't know what's going to happen now on what looks like it could become a second recession. So it's a bizarre dynamic. And in this particular town, it gets more bizarre because the town has increased its value by $265 million over the last 3 years, which means if we were able to raise your taxes, even by 4.5% this year, you'd all still see a tax decrease in your property taxes. But we can't. By law, we're not allowed. So we're going to do the best we can with what we have. And again, not knowing what we really have. That's kind of where we are going right now. So our basic budget, with all the money we spend, our tax levy, that's how much we collect from you and from businesses, is 114 and change. Then we get other monies in other places. And that state aid number is the big deal, $21 million, the fourth bullet. But that money has been shrunk, and it may shrink again. We don't know. Other numbers, the other number that matters to us is the big number. Well, all the numbers matter, but another big number is our debt service. I consider debt service, the best way to understand it is if you have a credit card that you don't pay off every month, you have a minimum charge, or you have a payment plan to get it all paid off. That's the debt service from opening buildings, borrowing money, and all of those things that a school district does. Remember, for the school district to borrow money, so those were all done through referendums years and years and years ago. And that's where we are. At the end of the day, that zero is a must to submit a budget. It must be a zero budget of how much you're going to spend, which is how much revenue you're going to take in. Unlike a company, they could do this differently. We cannot. We have to be at zero every year. So if you look at our state aid figures, if we start at the top, you see we've been hovering in that $23 million range. Then in 2018-19, during the first round of S2, we received $1.2 million. It was wonderful. We just got money. And they were saying, just kidding. They took it away. And now look at the plan all the way to 2023-24. Every year, reduction, reduction, reduction. And I'll show you what that looks like. Basically, right now, 80% of this district is funded by the local taxes. The other 20% comes from, as the sheet I just showed you, state aid, other sources. Look what happens by 23-24. The state has determined that South Brunswick doesn't pay enough in taxes. I would imagine there's not one of you watching or on the board that agrees with that statement. But the state has made the determination that your taxes are too low, you need to pay. So their plan, cut state aid and make you fund it. Problem? You can't fund any more than 2%. So even if you all said, Scott, we want to give you more money, you can't through your taxes, not legally. So still, when all this is said and done, you'll be funding more and more of the school district, and state aid will be less and less and less each year. As of right now, one of our board members, Lisa Rogers, will be leading a charge, as she was right before we went down with the pandemic, related to how we can get your help, your support, and get the word out that this needs to change. We need to get into the states thinking as to why this is happening and what else could be done. Because this is going to be untenable, which I'll show you as we continue. So again, a quick slide. This is how we all red, right? All of our costs are going down. The top number is the total number of all these numbers, total budgetary comparative pupil. We're dropping. It's just we're not able to continue funding where we need to be. So we used to spend 14.6. Next year we'll be spending 13.9, and the year after that it will go lower and lower. That's coming out of main categories, our operations and maintenance. Why that's not fun and shiny. If we don't maintain our buildings, we don't maintain our buses, if we don't maintain things, just think of your own homes for a period of time. But there's a point where you can't anymore. We're going to reach that much quicker than we ever could have imagined. Other areas taking a big hit are administrative costs. We have no choice but to reduce in these areas. Classroom instructional cost takes a hit because all these other things add up. So we're going to keep working through this, but with the model that's been presented to us, these numbers are going to continuously drop year after year. So here's the best way I can explain this. This is what the government has provided to us, what happens to our state aid. And what I want to show you, if you look at the column estimated reduction in FY20 state aid and go down to where the number $1,770,394. That is what they told us last year we would be losing in state aid. And they also told us over the course of all these years, we were going to be losing $8.8 million. But they decided, no, we weren't taking enough from South Brunswick. So instead, we're going to take an extra 160,000 more from you. Making our total number, not 8.8 million, but over $9 million we're losing in monies to spend on your children's education. We hope this will change, but as of right now, we are operating under this guide. So this means, and this is an important point, I want to make sure I'm clear about this. It looks, when you look at how much we're going to spend in the operating budget, we're increasing by almost $1.2 million. So it's hard to say, well, that's not less, that's more. Yes, 1.2 million is more. However, we have to cover all of the new expenses for the following year. To show you what that looks like, if we look down this document and the yellow striped line, at the very bottom, you'll see $1,350,943. That's how much we're short if we do what we're doing this year, next year. So it's not that we're getting 2 million more. We need a lot more than that. And the state is taking money every year. If you slide over to the next column, 21-22, where they're going to take another 2 million on top of the 1.9 million they just took. That year, we're going to be 3.4 million short of what we need. The next year, we're taking another 2 million, we're going to be 4.8 million short. And in that 23-24 year, we're going to be over $6 million short, totaling just shy of $16 million in money that we need to operate the district. I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact of that, but that's what we're facing. This is all, I'm going to reiterate, before COVID-19 implications. This was the plan the state thought was a good idea for South Brunswick School District. Before. So we don't know what to expect. And you can hear in my voice the frustration of this alone, let alone being forced to put a budget forth to our community with almost guarantees it will not look like it looks now. It's not a fair situation to have to put you in, and I do apologize on behalf of the board and the district, but it is the law and it is what we are doing, and we will do it as best we can with as little impact to learning as possible. Here's the news for you. You should like this news. It's good news. If you have a $200,000 assessed home, you will see almost a $50 decrease in your property taxes. And you can see each $100,000 of assessed value comes out to roughly a $24 decrease in taxes. Where's all the money? The school. We don't get any of these decreases. We don't get anything out of this. And it's not the township doing it. I want to be clear about that. The township is not responsible for any of this. So it's don't yell at the township because of these changes. This is the State Department of Education and the governor. They're the ones who own these decisions, the legislation, not the local board, not the mayor, it's not the township. But this is what it is. At least the good news out of this, you'll have a little bit of a savings depending on how much your house is assessed at. Figure $24 per 100,000 of a decrease in your taxes next. We're glad that you get the decrease. Don't get us wrong. It's a beautiful thing. But I think if we polled the entire community, they would gladly give us that $24 per 100,000 to not be in the situation we're looking at. But it isn't my choice to make for you, and it's not your choice to make either. But it's not news we're happy about. But this at least one part, an extra few dollars in everybody's account is always a good thing. To stay on this point, South Brunswick is the second lowest best tax rate in the county, meaning everybody has a worse tax rate except for Cranberry. Why Cranberry? Because Cranberry is a smidgen of the size of South Brunswick, and it probably has the same amount of rentals. It has enough warehouses in Cranberry, so they do a great job with their taxes. But South Brunswick is second best in the county at managing its taxes for its community. And right now, that's kind of hurting us. They're saying that that's not good. Don't do that anymore. Take more money from your taxpayers. Oh, but wait a minute. You can't take more money from your taxpayers. And that is our conundrum. They're telling us to take more money, and then they're saying, but you can't. Not our rules, but we're trying to work through them. So what do we do each year to manage the budget? Improving upon our revenue generating programs. Well, I could cross that one out now. We're not going to be able to improve upon our revenues from this year. We review every budget line for accuracy. We're assessing everything, our enrollment, and that was a very big help this year. Our enrollment in the elementary school has gone down again, so we were able to reduce positions there. That helped us with the budget. We don't like to reduce positions, but that's what happens when enrollment's down. We have an extra almost $500,000 from the Ulysses Law Grant. Good job, David. Thank you. We improved our processes to get more extraordinary aid. Again, it's another unknown number, though. We budgeted at $1 million. We hope to get more. We just hope really not to get less. We also always look at our vendor relationships, but a huge issue right now is with contractors. They're suffering too. Our bus contractors they're in struggle mode. They're suffering right now. David, our business administrator, is working with other business administrators around the county and around the state, trying to figure out a way to keep them afloat, provide them with resources and finances so that those bus companies can continue to serve us. We had negotiated a great deal with them. We hope that's still able to be put in place for next year. But it's possible that our bus costs could go up significantly for next year. Another unknown item. So again, this is what we do. It's a tremendous amount of work. It's a large undertaking. All of our building principals and assistant principals and supervisors, everyone is looking, and directors and assistants, everyone is looking how we can find the best way to manage the money. It's a 3-4 month process. So here's the impact that we're looking at. Our short-term impact for next year is really just tightening our belts. We had the good enrollment I told you about the elementary. We increased a few fees that you'll be hearing about. One was the Summer Institute fees to try and go in line with other locals. And we have to increase the bus fee for the morning middle school program. We just can't afford it. So we have to increase those fees or we have to eliminate the programs. We're not looking at starting any new programs. We have to look at what we can continue. We look at what resources we can do without. And we look at how we do the strategic plan with all of this impact. So it's tremendous what we're dealing with right now in the budget. As we go through this, looking at 2 and 3 years out is where it starts to get a little bit scary. As I said, over 2 and 3 years, we need about $10 million more than we have. So that, and this is sad to write, and I've written it before. We're looking at potential massive staff reductions, program shutdowns, elimination of services, just a whole bunch of bad. And right now, again, I reiterate, the state of New Jersey feels this was the right move to make with how it budgets its $40 billion budget, was to do this to our district and about 100 other districts as well in the same boat as us. Ultimately, if this continues, we cannot contain it. We cannot provide the education that the law says we must. It will be sustainable. And as of right now, we'll be picking up the torch again on this, throwing the spaghetti against the wall, so to speak, seeing what we can get done so that we can get out of this financial crisis that we are in. And again, I know I'm extremely repetitive this evening. This is all pre-COVID-19 impact and implications. And all of those unknowns could make all I've shared potentially worse than what we were already planning for. So the way to avoid this, we join support our students with another 100 school districts. We're working with our township and seeing what possibilities. But again, right now, with this pandemic, this is a big problem. I mean, money's going to be tight everywhere. It's not a thing that you can just throw around to people. I was scheduled to meet with the commissioner on March 17th. We've been scheduled to testify, all canceled right now. So we don't know where all those things are. Andrew Zwicker, our assemblyman, has been absolutely awesome. He's a voice for us in the assembly. He understands the issues extremely well. He shares with us when he hears news that might help us, and he advocates for the district. Continue our lobbying, use the press. They're going to have to understand our problem. Someone's going to have to help. And it isn't us holding a tin can outside our doors. This is serious. Why we will do it well as you can do it. It's serious. This is another part you have to know now. I just want to share this with you. It is very possible, if nothing changes, we have to go to what's called the second question in November, which is basically saying, listen, we need more funding. The only way we can do that legally is to ask for it and for it to be voted on. If it is voted upon and approved, those monies would become available to the district. So the only legal way to manage this is through what's called a second question. The only next step we would have to do is move the entire election process back to April and go through a normal budget scenario back 10 years ago. We don't know the best way yet, but we know we need to unify. It's not just going to be Scott and the superintendent and the board members, and David. This is not that. This is every single one of us that lives in this community. Because whether you have kids in the district or not, what happens to the property value in this town if the schools start to go down? I would not want to be selling my house in a downward spin. We need everybody to join and jump in. And again, we have partners in our township, and we have partners in the assembly. And again, I know you'll be hearing more from Lisa. I know she's ramping to get out now and start, but when it's time and when it's appropriate, she'll be leading us in the charge to see how you can help us with this crisis. I end just so you can see these again. As a reminder, this page is all after all of the other information I shared this evening, in addition to all I shared this evening. This is the challenges we face. We will be amazing at facing them, but there's some big challenges ahead, and we need everybody on board. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I'll open up to the board for questions.
Scott, do you want me to stop the share or keep the presentation up?
We can keep it up in case I have to go back based upon a question.
Yes, I have a question, a comment.
Okay, Steve.
Really, one of the issues, even with going to a second question, is either you have to pay for a special election, which is extremely expensive, or you have to do it in the current November election. The problem with that is having it in November does not help the 2021 school year. That wouldn't apply until the following school year. But we don't know what the budget for the next school year is, so it makes it very difficult to put a question on the ballot when we're not sure what to ask for.
It's add it to the conundrum list, Dr. Parker.
Right.
I have a question, Mr. Feder. So looking at this reduction in the classroom, it says that reduction in number of dollar amounts per pupil, right? Spending that we are spending in that slide, we are saying that.
Yes.
So my question is that we are not lowering our quality of educations, I guess. We are just maintaining it, right?
I'm going to be honest with you, Devin. You can't maintain in a deficit model that is compounded by $9 million in lost state aid and further compounded by the pandemic's implications. We will absolutely, because of who we have working in this district, absolutely best to maintain everything we do. But the education will happen, but the choices will be less. There'll be less programs. There'll be less things. There's nowhere else to go but having less.
Okay, good.
That is what you're facing. Not less quality, lesser options.
Lesser option. Yep.
Could be higher class sizes,
Mhm.
lesser options. Freehold Regional School District is already moved to 32 minimum in their high schools for class size as a result of the same issues that we're facing.
Good. Thank you.
Middle school sports, schools are looking to reduce kindergarten to half day. The implications are significant. I know, David, you wanted to jump in?
No, I just wanted to say, if anybody has a question, if they could, at the bottom of the screen, click the raise the hand. I see those, and that makes it easy for me to get to you and unmute you if I have to.
And one more questions. That let's say if everything I know in this we are all together and we are fighting for it. So let's say if state comes back around June, because I know they extended their budget till October. So let's say if in summer or September they say come back and say, okay, you have more money. Do we have flexibility to change our budget, or this is set in concrete?
No, we would just have the extra money and then we'd be able to spend it though. So we wouldn't have to come back to the board for anything. We would just be able to, we'd have more money to spend. So yes, Devin, if you can get someone to give us more money in June.
We entire South Brunswick is working on it. So let's work on it. We are all waiting for Lisa to see, give us a game plan.
Are there any other questions tonight? David, why don't you unmute everybody because Lisa, is that you?
Yeah, I couldn't unmute myself. I apologize.
That wasn't by accident. No, it was by accident.
Yeah, I know it was on purpose. I think it's important, Scott, that you reemphasize the S2 issue. I think it's a lot of people don't really understand that and the implications to the districts. So it's not just our district, there's 20, and correct me if I'm wrong, 26 or so districts
100.
that are getting hit, while some of them, like for example, our neighbors in North Brunswick are getting about $6 or $7 million. So
Yeah,
there's a percentage of districts, correct?
It's actually 100 districts have been hit hard. 100.
Okay.
And yes, some of our neighbors have fared well in the S2 funding changes. We don't fault those districts.
No.
North Brunswick received an extra $6.5 million, but we don't. Good for them. We're not unhappy that they received that in any way. Unfortunately, the way the funding formulas works, they've decided that the funding formula suggests that we're wealthy enough to cover all these costs ourselves. The part that we can't seem to get someone to grasp in the legislation is you can't say out of one side of your mouth, you're too wealthy, your people need to pay more money. And out of the second side of your mouth, the other side, say, but you can't take any more of their money.
But I also,
it's not,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I also want to say that while we have to look at cuts, whatever those cuts are, across the board in our district, I think there's also a frustration on a lot of folks when they understand that and we have no problem sending children to charter schools, but we aren't allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're not allowed to cut funding to the charter schools, correct?
No, every year we increase funding to the charter schools, and they're not subject to these cuts.
And the frustrating part is they don't have to be accountable for the money
Correct.
that they spend.
Correct.
Nope.
Thank you.
So I know in North Brunswick, for example, we could be like, oh, they got so much money, but they also spend about, I think,
5.2.
7, 8, or 9 times the amount of money on charter schools that we have to. And that's money they can't use to operate their school district.
Correct.
So everybody has their own problems. That's why we're not looking at other districts with anything like that. We're just looking at ourselves. And we know
I think-
money's tight everywhere.
Right.
And that's the way it is. But to tell a district you're going to take $9 million, we're not, again, 100 districts, like some worse than us. Old Bridge is in bad shape. Frio Regional's in very bad shape. Tom's River, Brick, lots of districts, Jackson, are in very, very challenging shape. And they don't have the offerings we have. And I don't know how we'll sustain them absent of us going at some point to votes. And that would be our only avenue.
And I think it's also important for people to understand, Scott, that by moving the vote to April, maybe you could just kind of reiterate what that does for the board. What change would happen?
So districts back in 2000, I think 11 or 12, were given the option to move their vote budget to stop the budget vote. If you remember, you were able to vote on the budget that the Board of Education presented. However, the rules changed that if you were willing to not go 2% cap, then you could move to November. That became a rule, not a willingness. So now we are under the rule of a 2% cap, and we go until November. The other thing that would change, if you move it back to April, everybody gets to vote on whether or not the budget could pass, but you can put any amount of money you want in the budget. The other part that changes is school board elections also moved to April. So that would be a shift back off of the national elections. You would just be back to April. And the only thing that would be happening on that day would be school board. So not sure that would be desired either.
But then we bear the cost of the election.
Yeah, you would bear the full cost of that election because the county clerk's office handles the November election, not the April election. So all costs associated with voting, all the booths, any cost at all are 100% at the cost of the sole districts.
Thank
That
you.
was one of the incentives for moving to November, was saving the cost of the election.
Yep.
And then also moving it to November, that created more public participation because generally during the April elections, there was low voter turnout. Moving to November and made the election more robust.
That's correct, Arthur. You get much better turnout in November. So, I mean, that's what I have. David, there's a public portion to the hearing, correct?
Yes, we could do public portion. Well, you could do it during public comment, or you can do public portion of the.
Let's do public portion now, because after that, I'd like to give Tabitha the floor. Welcome back, Tabitha. We see you now. And
Scott, for me to manage the participants, I'd have to stop the share. Are you okay with that?
You can stop the share. We can handle questions without the share.
So if you want to open up to the attendees the opportunity to comment on the public hearing of the 2021 school budget, you can do that now.
Let's do that, David.
Go ahead. So at this time, if anybody of the attendees that we have on the meeting, if you would like to comment on the public portion of the meeting, all you'd have to do is notify at the bottom of your screen. You could raise your hand to talk. Click that. I will see that and then provide you an opportunity to have your comment. Anyone looking to comment on the budget? I'm not seeing anybody as of now. Second call. Anybody wanting to comment on the budget? I've got Sharon Johnson on the phone as well. She's confirming nobody is right now raising a hand to comment. Last call. Anybody like to comment on public portion of the budget for the 2021 school year? That's it, Scott. We'll close it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. If you don't mind, I'd like to turn it over to Tabitha. If you could unmute Tabitha, because
Sure can.
bring us back to some good news.
Hi, everyone. I hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy again. And I know that the news of school being canceled for the rest of the year is saddening, but as Mr. Feder said, that I'm confident that it's what's best for South Brunswick right now, and obviously for all of New Jersey. But my heart does go out, especially to the seniors right now. I know that today has been a difficult day for them, but I just wanted to share a little bit of things that are still going on virtually with South Brunswick High School. So, class councils are still having meetings this week to discuss the situation and what they can do during this time. Currently, student and class councils are accepting applications and speeches for the upcoming school year. And so voting will take place from May 22nd to May 28th, and the election results will be announced on May 29th. And then, as Mr. Feder said, this week is Teacher/Staff Appreciation Week, and students can check their Google Classroom to see for more info on what they can do to contribute to thanking our teachers and our administration during this time. And also, as Mr. Feder mentioned, the South Brunswick Tech Storm Student Film Festival is going to be held virtually on May 12th, streamed live at 7 p.m. from the VTN YouTube. Is currently selling graduation banners still, and also check their Google Classrooms for more information on pricing, and they can find the link where they can purchase the banners. Student Council is still holding meetings for things like Viking Leadership Alliance and Student Senate, and this is all taking place over Zoom. But just once again, I hope that everyone is staying home and staying safe. And although it probably won't be soon, I can't wait till we can all see each other again in person. And just thank you once again for the administration, the teachers, and the parents, especially this week, and just for everything that you all are doing during this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tabitha. Appreciate it. David, how are we opening this up now?
You would just have to read your statement and open up the first public comment on, just open up your public comment just as you would.
Okay. So, the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of this rule, forget about that. To the public, you can obtain a copy of the advance copy by contacting the board office during the regular business hours. We reserve the right to limit each speaker to no more than 3 minutes. It is our plan to listen to each members of the public. We will note all questions and comments made. Once all questions and comments from all members of the public are made, the Board of Education will respond, if necessary, to questions or comments in the most timely and efficient manner available. Please consider not repeating comments and questions made by other members of the public. I ask that you state your name, place of residence, or your group affiliation. Okay, so David, you're going to call people into the meeting that
Yes.
want to ask? Is that how we're doing it?
Yep. Once somebody raises their hand, we have 20 attendees who are watching, and I have a person who is looking to discuss or have a comment, open comment, and I will now allow that person to talk. So this is Camille Curling. Did I pronounce that correctly? She will unmute her.
Hi,
Camille.
Camille Curling, South Brunswick, Princeton Walk. I am curious as to whether there is any kind of like a think tank team or someone working on an alternative for the seniors. While I don't have a senior, I do feel for them. And I know that, the education system has done several things, both during virtual and before virtual. And I'd like to know whether there's something that they're trying to put together for the seniors, and I would love to be able to help with that.
Give me 1 second. I'll unmute Dr. Scott Fetter.
Dr. Scott.
Yeah, promoted.
You gave him a PhD. Okay.
I love it. It was
Got him.
too. Hey, Georgette, how are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. So yes, the answer is a solid, resounding yes. They are working on that. That has been a huge focus. Even before the governor's announcement today, of course, we were expecting this news at some point. And as you know, I have a senior myself, not in the district. And we absolutely feel for our seniors and want their end to be as wonderful as we can make it. So a lot is going on, and I think the seniors will start to hear things shortly.
That's it, Camille?
Yeah, is there some place, is it that the parents, anybody else who may want to be able to help in any capacity? Like,
Yeah,
is there an area to go
Georgette,
to?
I would, why don't you give the office a call tomorrow? Or better yet, just email Mr. Varela, the principal, or your assistant principal for your child, and see if there's a way to get involved or offer insights.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Georgette. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks, Camille. Thanks, Mr. Fetter. David, next.
Anybody else looking to discuss or have comments for the public portion of the meeting? We have none. Last call? And
Okay.
you can close this public comment, Barry.
Okay. We'll close, motion to close. So moved. Thank you. Board committee reports, Devin, you're the only chairman that had a committee this week?
That is correct, Mr. President, but I think my report will go on next committee meeting because we just met today, so we'll finalize the note and I'll present it in the next board meeting.
Okay.
I think Mr. Robinson has his policy second reading.
Yes, thank you, Debbie. The only thing I just wanted to say is that that's 1.5 on the consent agenda, so that's what you'll be voting on tonight.
That's it? Okay. Close board reports. Okay, moving along, approve action items, consent agenda, May 4th, 2020. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Parker, second by Mr. Patel. Can I get a roll call, David, please?
All right. Mr. Patrick Del Piano.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond Keener.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce Mehta.
Here.
Dr. Stephen Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Devin Patel.
Aye.
Mr. Arthur Robinson.
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Scaletti.
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment on tonight's agenda. If you took a look to the board, if you took a look at the human resources addendum to the agenda, you'll see that longtime teacher and coach Joseph Doherty is retiring. I've known Joe for about 45 years. I graduated high school with him. And my son was a varsity wrestler. So I want to wish him the best. And unfortunately, right now, we can't honor any retirees, so we'll probably have to do that going into next year, I would think. So, and my vote is yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Are we doing a second public comments or no?
No.
Okay. So moving along to board comments and communication. Please raise your hand if you want to say something, please. Joe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. During this virus, I really want to thank the students who work on the EMT, the volunteer fire department, in the grocery stores and the gas stations, the kids who've been helping out with the food banks. I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys have been doing, our students and stuff. So I do appreciate and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Lisa.
Yeah, I just want to, again, and kind of dovetailing off of what Joe just said, but in our area, it was the posters that were created by the students K through 12 and delivered to the hospitals. I did this as a parent, not as a board member, but I must tell you that the hospitals were so thoroughly thankful for these posters. They were works of art, and I'm not joking. They were works of art. Some of them were just amazing. And we met with a couple nurses, we met with the doctor, and they were just thrilled. And hopefully no one will have to go to the hospital, but maybe they'll keep them up for a while after people are allowed to visit. At Robert Wood, they're kind of, when you walk into the lobby, above you is the cafeteria, and they just are lined on the glass of the cafeteria. And please, if you didn't have a chance yet, please take a ride down Route 1 and take a look at the Scudder Mills exit. The posters are there so the Penn Medicine staff can see them. So a heartfelt thanks to all the students and parents who stepped up to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Mr. President. So echoing with same sentiment with Ms. Rogers and Mr. Skelati, that I did pass by Route 1 and saw all the posters. I did take videos. Park my car. So it looks wonderful. Thank you, Lisa, for taking leadership on that as a parent. And also, I would, on the same note, South Brunswick Leo Club, who's actually mentored by Princeton Visionary Club, they actually did a wall thanking all the mayors and the staff at the town administration, police, EMT, everyone. And that wall is right now by the municipal building. So if you get a chance, just do look at it. They did, all the students, all the kids worked very hard for that one too. So kudos to those. But thank you everyone for doing and keeping up with in this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Mehta.
Hi. So just a couple of things. Number one, I just wanted to say that I have seen the posters created by all the students. They're totally phenomenal. And so we appreciate everybody's hard work and efforts in this regard. Number two, the mental health fair that was online last week, I had attended that, and that was a phenomenal success. The presenters were just amazing. And this year it was actually opened up to all South Brunswick community residents, which I thought was wonderful. Many people had joined. I believe it was almost 300 people joined. And so that was actually recognized by our commissioner. So I do say thank you with deepest gratitude to everybody who participated for the mental health fair. And lastly, but not least, one of our previous teachers at Indian Fields School, her name was Mrs. Pang, and she was a phenomenal teacher. And she taught, I believe, second grade, and she had passed away last week. So I just want to say heartfelt condolences to her family and to all the students that were, we were really grateful for all the students, all the parents. She made a great impact on our children. So I just wanted to say heartfelt condolences to her family.
Thank you. Anyone else? Real quick, in these strange times, part of the things we would be doing right now, not only would we be getting close to getting ready for graduation, but we would be having different signing parties for people, for athletes that would be going on to college. And I just want to mention one that his mother posted recently. It's Dan O'Grady. He was a track star and a football player at South Brunswick. After his graduation, he will be going to the Monmouth University to throw shot put. So I want to wish him luck. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to eat the cake that would be at his signing. I also want to commend Jen Desler and all the people that were involved in setting up the appreciation videos that started today. Everybody's going to get to see them. We all got to see them. It's out in the public now. It's an amazing thing. A lot of us participated in it. So I asked the public to take a look at that and enjoy. Also, the mayor put out a nixle just, I believe it was yesterday or today, online at the township website. There's a full, complete list of all restaurants that are open and are doing either some form of pickup or delivery. And it mentions if they're involved in any of the online delivery services and such. And like the mayor asked, I'm going to also ask if you're thinking about doing takeout of any kind. We all appreciate if you go to local restaurants and will help them in this busy time. Thank you. So that being said, can I get before we adjourn, can I get a motion to go to executive session?
Make a motion, we go to executive session.
Moved by Mr. Keener, second by Mr. Scaletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, everybody, for us at this point, going to ask the attendees to leave the meeting. Panelists, you all stay where you are. I'm going to stop the recording.
You can't say here because it's.
Okay, I just have to read the statement going into executive session, David. So be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of South Brunswick hereby moves into executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, 10:4-6 through 10:421 to discuss personnel matters. Be it further resolved that discussion conducted in executive session can be disclosed in public at such time as the matter has been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. Thank you to the public. Appreciate it. Good night, South Brunswick, and please stay safe.